now to present tonight's top 10 list, do me a favor, please welcome Kirby Puckett.
Kirby Puckett had 2,304 hits, 6 Gold Gloves, and first ballot immortality before glaucoma blinded his right eye at 35, ending his legendary career overnight.
His right eye. Unfortunately, it did not work. So tonight, Kirby Puckett said goodbye.
But this isn't a sad retirement story. It's the dark reality of how baseball built an unstoppable icon, then actively ignored the terrifying destruction of his private life to protect its profits. Puckett's rise began in Chicago's notorious Robert Taylor Homes, a massive public housing project marked by extreme crime and municipal neglect. Puckett grew up as one of 9 children in a severely cramped apartment. His father, William Puckett, worked exhausting double shifts as a postal mail sorter to keep the family afloat. Lacking green parks, young Kirby built his legendary hand-eye coordination by playing makeshift baseball games on the hot asphalt and littered dirt lots surrounding the projects. Did you know he didn't play a single game on a real grass diamond until his family finally moved when he was a teenager? Even with his obvious talent, Major League scouts completely ignored him. Standing at just 5 feet 8 inches tall and carrying a stocky, rounded frame of 210 pounds, he looked more like a fire plug than an elite center fielder. Scouts compared his build to old-school hitters like Jimmy Wynn and Hack Wilson, but they deeply doubted his speed and range. He received absolutely no college athletic offers after graduating from Calumet High School. Lacking opportunities, he took a grueling job installing carpets inside Ford Thunderbirds. But after a layoff, a local tryout camp rescued his dream, launching a college baseball path that swept him through Bradley University and Triton College. The Minnesota Twins drafted him in the 3rd round in 1982, and his debut on May 8, 1984 was pure magic. Facing the California Angels, the 24-year-old rookie went 4 for 5 with 4 singles. He became only the 9th player in history to record 4 hits in a 9-inning debut. Over 12 seasons, Puckett became the absolute heartbeat of the franchise. He hit a stellar .318 and won 6 Gold Gloves. On the Metrodome's artificial turf, he routinely threw his body against the plexiglass walls to rob opposing hitters of home runs. Teammates said playing with him felt like a different kind of baseball because he made demanding plays look completely effortless. He remained fiercely loyal to one franchise, never switching teams in an era when free agency was tearing rosters apart. This legend peaked in Game 6 of the 1991 World Series. Facing elimination against the Atlanta Braves, Puckett made a spectacular leaping catch to rob Ron Grant in the 3rd inning. In the 11th, with the game tied, he walked to the plate and told his teammates in the dugout to jump on his back. Facing Charlie Leibrandt, he launched a historic walk-off home run. As he circled the bases, Jack Buck delivered the legendary call.
And we'll see you tomorrow night.
The Twins won Game 7 the next night, securing their 2nd World Series title. But the man the country saw as a symbol of pure joy was carrying something nobody in baseball wanted to look at. When the truth finally broke, the sport that made him a hero had nothing to say. In the spring of 1996, Kirby Puckett's career did not slowly fade away. It stopped in the middle of a sentence. Puckett was wrapping up a brilliant spring training in Fort Myers, Florida, batting a blistering .344. He was 35, healthy, and coming off a stellar season where he had hit .314 with 23 home runs and 99 runs batted in. But on the morning of March 28th, just days before opening day, Puckett woke up to a massive black dot blocking the vision in his right eye. Within hours, his sight went completely dark. Specialists diagnosed him with acute glaucoma. His eye fluid pressure was in the low 30s, far exceeding the normal range of 10 to 22.
It came out in the press at the time, Kirby did have glaucoma. Normal range on the pressure in the eyes between 10 and 22, and when I read his pressure was in the low 30s.
The disease caused severe, irreversible optic nerve damage. Despite 4 complex surgeries, doctors could not restore his sight, and Puckett was forced to announce his retirement on July 12, 1996. At his Metrodome press conference, the public grieving was immense. Puckett wept openly, comforted by Dave Winfield. But as the nation mourned the tragic end of a legendary career, they were mourning a carefully built fiction. The baseball establishment immediately mobilized to protect and preserve the smiling, lucrative Puck brand. The Twins retired number 34 within weeks. In 2001, his first year of eligibility, Puckett was elected to the Hall of Fame on the first ballot. He was awarded the Roberto Clemente Man of the Year award for his community service. His Cooperstown plaque immortalized his ever-present smile and infectious exuberance. Baseball urgently needed Puckett to remain the unblemished hero of its marketing campaigns. No one wanted to look at what retirement actually looked like behind closed doors. The retirement ceremony was a tribute to one version of Kirby Puckett. But behind the closed doors of his suburban mansion, a terrifying reality of loaded guns, systematic payoffs, and hidden victims was already boiling over. And the game that had put him on a pedestal had absolutely no way to stop what was coming. The public myth of the unblemished superstar shattered forever in March 2003, when Sports Illustrated published a meticulous cover story by Frank Deford titled The Rise and Fall of Kirby Puckett. But the rot didn't start in the pages of a magazine. It was already being actively covered up by the very team that built him. Deford revealed that shortly before Puckett's January 2001 Hall of Fame enshrinement, a female Twins employee threatened to file a sexual harassment lawsuit citing predatory behavior by the icon. To protect his first ballot election, the Twins organization quietly settled out of court to buy her silence, because a scandal on the eve of Cooperstown would destroy the brand. The Twins refused to comment on the payoff, but they had officially drawn the line. The image of the hero was worth more than the safety of their employees. And that institutional protection shielded a private life that was spiraling into terrifying violence. Deford's investigation exposed detailed on-the-record accounts from multiple women who had been subjected to Puckett's force and control for years. His ex-wife Tanya, who divorced him late in 2002, described a marriage defined by physical abuse. She revealed that Puckett repeatedly threatened to murder her, strangled her with a cord, locked her in their basement, and used a power saw to cut through a locked door. Most horrifyingly, Tanya testified that Puckett placed a loaded gun to her head. The investigation also featured testimony from Laura Nygren, his mistress of 18 years. She exposed his saintly public image as a sham, recalling him dismissing charity visits. "I don't give a shit. It's just another kid who's sick." Nygren testified that after retirement, Puckett became an aggressive thrill seeker, demanding public sex inside his executive offices at Twins headquarters and committing public indecency, like urinating in mall parking lots. When Nygren and Tanya communicated in March 2002, Puckett threatened Nygren's life, saying, "If I find out that it was you who sold me out, you're in trouble, girl," forcing her to obtain a protective order. This pattern of unchecked behavior, protected by cash and silence, inevitably spilled into the public eye and culminated in criminal charges. On September 6, 2002, at the Redstone American Grill, a mortgage loan officer identified as KL accused Puckett of dragging her into a restroom stall and groping her. She described a violent tug-of-war as she tried to hook her ankle around a door frame. When she escaped and told the bouncer, he responded sarcastically, "Right, that's Kirby Puckett. If you want something done, you'll have to call police." County Attorney Amy Klobuchar prosecuted the icon, charging him with felony false imprisonment, criminal sexual conduct, and assault. During the March 2003 trial, the state presented physical evidence of bruises on KL's arm, ankle, and breast. An independent witness, Alan Anderson, testified that he saw Puckett drag the terrified woman into the restroom. Under cross-examination, the defense aggressively attacked Anderson's credibility because he had consumed 6 beers that night. The defense also alleged that KL had exposed her breasts earlier, which prosecutors fought as a vicious smear campaign. Puckett testified that he only escorted her on his arm like a gentleman because the women's room was crowded. On April 3, 2003, the jury acquitted Puckett of all charges. The trial provided legal closure, but it didn't create institutional accountability. The twins issued a brief statement saying they were glad the matter was closed, while Major League Baseball and the Hall of Fame remained silent. Puckett withdrew entirely from public life, his health decaying as his weight ballooned past 300 pounds. On March 6, 2006, just 3 years after the trial, he suffered a fatal stroke and died at 45. The obituaries immediately defaulted to the easiest narrative, leading with the heroics of Game 6 and ending with a brief sanitizing line about a complicated legacy. But by reducing his life to a sad, complicated tragedy, the sport avoided a much darker reality. Who actually made it complicated? And how did the system keep his smile pristine while the women he abused were left in the shadows? If baseball could buy silence to protect a Hall of Fame vote, what else were they willing to sacrifice to keep the money machine running? Puckett's life represents a profound systemic failure of professional baseball's hero economy. In this massive commercial ecosystem, franchises invest millions to cultivate a player's public persona. This carefully manufactured asset drives ticket sales, television contracts, and corporate sponsorships. Because of this commercial value, the sport has an enormous financial incentive to protect the image of its superstars, even at the cost of human safety. When a superstar turns predatory, the institution lacks any structure for moral accountability. Instead, it defaults to systematic concealments, buying silence, and looking away from documented abuse to protect the product. The Hall of Fame embodies this systemic abdication. Puckett's plaque remains on display in Cooperstown, celebrating his exuberance while completely divorcing his performance from his violence. Because the Hall of Fame has no removal mechanism, enshrinement functions as permanent validation, leaving the sport with no way to address the dark legacy of the men it glorifies. But who paid the actual cost of baseball's silence? It wasn't Kirby Puckett. It was the women who came forward on the record. Tonya Puckett, Laura Nygren, and KL. They watched a criminal acquittal become a cultural exoneration, and they watched the sport move on within weeks, wrapping itself in a complicated legacy to avoid answering for the abuse it helped shield. Baseball didn't fail to see what was happening to Puckett. It saw what was convenient and looked away from the rest. While glaucoma robbed Puckett of his vision, the sport's deliberate moral blindness ensured that no one had to answer for his actions. Uncovering these forgotten hidden sports histories requires massive amounts of time and effort. Each of our videos takes weeks of deep dive research, analyzing original trial transcripts, police reports, and archived files to bring you the unfiltered truth. If you want to support this independent research and help us keep producing high-quality investigations, please click the Super Thanks button right below this video. Your direct support keeps this channel running and ensures we can continue telling the stories other networks refuse to touch. Subscribe right now and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next deep dive.